The next thing we'll want to do is get familiar with the sketch environment in Inventor. In order to do this, we'll need to create a new part file. We will then create a new sketch on one of the origin planes, and once we're in the sketch environment, we can examine some of the sketch tools available in the Sketch tab. We'll also identify where to find sketch-related settings that you want to be aware of. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and launch Inventor now. Let's make sure that we're set to the default project inside of Inventor. Now, a project file is a system for organizing and accessing all files that are associated with a particular design job. When you install Inventor, it installs a default project automatically. To set or edit a project file, you want to make sure that all your Inventor files are closed first. Otherwise, Inventor will simply not allow you to proceed. You'll be able to set your active project in a couple places. In your home view, there's a pane at the top right where you can double-click on a project to make it active. We can also go to the Get Started tab and click on the Project button located on the Launch panel. This will launch the project editor, and you can double-click on the default project to make it active. Now, at some point, you'll want to create your own project file. And if you don't create a project or specify a different project when you start working in Inventor, then the default project is typically the active project file. The default project is a generic project, and it doesn't define a place for you to edit your files. However, you can use it to create designs immediately and save files anywhere without regard to projects or any file management. This project editor dialog box is the dialog that you'll use to configure and create your own project file. However, that's a lesson for a different day. Once you've set the default project to be active, choose Done. Now that we have our project settings taken care of, let's create a new file. If you remember, when we took a tour of the interface, we showed several ways to launch a command in Inventor. And creating a new file is no different. You can create a part through the home screen or home view. Clicking on the new part icon would immediately launch a new file based on a standard template. If we go to the Get Started tab and then go to the Launch panel and click New, you'll get the New File dialog. Another way to access this is through the Quick Access panel. Here you'll find a smaller version of the same New button, and it will launch the same New File dialog. Now, when we look at the Templates folder, as opposed to the English folder there or any other folder you might see, you'll find that its contents are categorized by file type on the right-hand side. You'll also notice that under the parts, there are two choices. If we click on the first one, you'll be able to find out about this particular template. In this case, it's a sheet metal part and it's set to inches. The units are right, however, we're not working with the sheet metal part that we need to unfold. So we'll use the other part, which is set as a regular part, and it's also set to inches. So we'll go ahead and choose that and select Create. Now that we have our new file open, let's take a minute to examine some default geometry that's included in every part file. In the browser, you'll notice an origin folder. If we expand this, you'll notice XYZ planes, axes, an origin point. These are features that define the parametric location of a sketch plane in 3D space. Now, to get a better look at these features, let's go ahead and click on the home view in our view cube. They're not visible in the graphics window. However, if we hover over them, you'll notice that they highlight in the graphics window. The planes specifically are used to sketch on when no planar solid faces exist. And before we get too much further, let's go ahead and go to the Quick Launch panel and save our file. We'll go ahead and save it to our C drive in our caster folder and name it something like My Caster Base and click Save. Now that we've saved it, we'll start by clicking the 2D Sketch tool. When you create a new sketch, you'll be prompted to select a plane. Every sketch requires a flat planar surface or work plane to sketch on. And when there are no existing solids, such as in this part, the tool will temporarily make these origin planes visible so that you can select one. Since we decided previously that we will draw our first sketch creating a square on the top view, we'll select the XZ plane since it corresponds with that top view. Now that we're in the sketch environment, you'll notice a few things have changed. In the browser, you'll see a new active sketch labeled as Sketch 1. In the graphics area, you'll see black crosshairs. In the ribbon, you'll notice a sketch panel is now active. These are all indicators that you're in the sketch environment, and just like all the other environments we've seen, the workflow goes from left to right in the ribbon panel, starting with the creation tools and working your way towards the right to the modification, patterning, and constraining tools until you're done and you finish your sketch. If we take a moment now to start exploring the Create panel, you'll notice you're not limited to the tools you see on the surface. If there's a black arrow below the tool, you can click on the pull down and see more tools that are available. The panels themselves also have pull downs that house less commonly used commands. This panel, the Create panel, is mainly used to create or draw geometry, such as lines, circles, arcs, and rectangles. Tools in the Modify panel will be used to modify existing drawing geometry. Another panel that will be frequently used is the Constraint panel. Tools here will be used to constrain your geometry either dimensionally or geometrically so that you have better control over your design. So let's take a look now where we can find some sketch-related settings. Let's navigate to the Tools tab, Options panel, and click on Document Settings. This dialog contains several settings for this document, this part only. Take a look at the Units tab. This is where the units and precision are set for this document. These should be in inches. The settings most relevant to us at the moment are the ones on the Sketch tab. You'll find a snap and grid settings for our 2D sketch. Using the snap feature while you're sketching will utilize these settings to make your mouse snap in whatever increment is set in the snap setting. You can also choose to display a grid according to the snap spacing as well. And there are several settings on some of the other tabs as well that you'll want to maybe explore by clicking on the help icon at the bottom right. So let's go ahead and close this dialog box. And now if we click on Application Options in the same panel, these settings are settings that give you control over preferences for appearance, behaviors, and file locations in Inventor. If you're launching this window for the very first time, it'll most likely launch the General tab. You'll want to make your way over to the Sketch tab to access sketch settings. Make a note of all the different settings that are available. You'll want to make sure that your settings are set similar to what you see here in order to complete the upcoming exercise in a similar fashion. A couple of the settings I'll touch on are the grid line setting and the axis setting. The grid line setting will turn on the display of our grid lines according to our snap spacing that was set in the document settings we reviewed earlier. Most users will leave these turned off. You'll notice the axis setting is checked. This is what controls the display of the black crosshairs that you see in the background in our sketch environment. I like to keep these turned on so that I can tell if I'm currently in a sketch or not. And again, there's several other settings in some of the other tabs as well that you'll want to explore by clicking on the help icon at the bottom right. So let's go ahead and click Close to exit the application options. And once this is done, you'll notice that the tab that we should be on, the Sketch tab, is highlighted green. You'll want to go ahead and click on it to make it active again.